Hello guys and welcome back. So I have the renders done and this is the environment path. I should have switched the geometry to the high-res version, but it's fine for this example. And this is the foam path. I think the foam could have a little bit more brightness to it. I think it's too dark, maybe something like this, but I don't want it to blow out in these areas as well, so maybe just 1.5. So that's something we could fix in comp. And then this is the water. I think the bubbles are quite big, to be honest. Probably lower that down, but overall I'm pretty happy with the result. So let's take a look at see how all this can be combined together. So we're going to use Houdini cops, and let's create an image network, and I'm going to load in the first render. That would be the in beauty, and then the water, and then the foam. We're gonna do a brief setup here, and then I'm gonna go over the previous comp that I've done. So let's reset this. Actually, let's just start a new session. There's not so much here. Okay, let's go to the composite, and it has already a comp, so don't have to create a new one. Let's create an image file, and I'm going to set this to 1 by 1. So env water and foam. Okay, and the order is the water is on top of the environment. I'm going to use a layer node to overlay the water on top of the environment. This is the env water, both combined, and then the foam comes on top of everything else. We could add it on top of the water if we wanted to, but it's fine. So this is with the foam added, without with the foam added. Now one thing I didn't show you guys is the passes. So here we turned on all those awesome AVs. So we have a p.z, we have diffuse, and you can see there that's our diffuse color coming from the velocity and vorticity, which is quite cool. So we could take this pass and gain it up and add it on top. And then the refraction, which is the most important pass. So we could also change this in any way we want in comp. And then we have indirect reflect, which is the reflection of the environment of the geometry. So any reflection of the lights is called a direct reflect, and then any reflection of the geometry is indirect. So if we go to the direct reflect, we should see just the environment and the sun. And then we have these two lights, so that's the light AV that I was talking about. And we have an HDR all, which is the HDR light, the environment, and then we have the sun. And this applies to all of them. Very cool. The other render that I did had an extra couple of extra lights, just spotlights in various corners to add a little bit of illumination in here. And I also added a light pointing from the bottom up to just increase the illumination here, but we don't have to do that. It's not crucial. I don't think I ended up using it. So with all these AUVs we can do a lot of cool stuff, but quickly I want to pardon me, I want to increase the brightness here of the foam, 1.5, something like that. And we can also increase the gamma to remove the dark areas, and this something like that. And then I want to take the refraction pass, which is probably something you would want to do. And to isolate AUVs, we're going to use a channel copy node. And we want the refract. So we want the target to be the color and the source to be the refract. So we want all the refraction. Okay. And we can just add that on top. So I'm going to use a layer node. And I don't think this has an alpha. It does have an alpha channel. So in the layer node, I don't want to add the alpha channel, because what's going to happen if we do that is, if we look here, it's going to increase the alpha color to 2, especially if we set this to add, which is what we're going to do. It's going to add the alpha. We don't want to change that, so we're going to keep just one alpha channel. Okay. So this is before, this is after. And we can also add a hue shift, for example, if we wanted to add more variation to the refraction. You can see there. And this is added on top. And this is a very basic comp. And I think it's pretty cool. I like the foam, definitely. I think it's working pretty well. The water is looking very cool. So I'm going to show the original comp. And it has a couple of extra things, mainly the lights. So this is the refraction pass. Probably the color of the volume is different as well. It has more green. And these are the extra lights that I didn't add. So just spotlights added in these corners. And I think that's pretty much it. That's the only difference. There's this bottom light, which I added in case I wanted to bring up more bottom lighting from the scene, but I don't think it's working pretty well. So you can see here it's lighting all this volume, and that it could help with fake caustics if we have, projected a map and we wanted to use that map as a mask. We could use this, but it's basically a spotlight, a point light pointing from the bottom up. And this is the raw render. Okay. And this is the final render after composting. So I'm gonna go over this. I'm not gonna rebuild it from scratch, and hopefully it's gonna make sense. So this is the main beauty. I separated the light AUVs. Basically, I've broken down the AUVs, and this is the reflection. And with this, I can add them together and change the color of the lights. Okay, so this is the sunlight and this is the environment. Let me add a layer node, and to combine the lights we're going to use an add mode. Okay, so this should look exactly the same. We're missing these lights, the spots, which is okay. So this and this, we can take, let's say, the light color, the sun color, and increase its intensity to 2. We can use an HSV node and shift its color and have control per light, basically, for what we want. If we want to change the environment as well, this is our environment light, and you can see this is affecting the look of the environment. So we could do extra tweaks here with these cool light AUVs. So basically I've separated each one of them. This is the refraction. I call this refract, and this is reflect. So I separated these two AUVs and then done a little bit of color correction on them, desaturated, brighten it down, and this is the reflection. What I've done here is I clamped it using a limit node because I saw some highlights here and some super bright areas, and I just wanted to clamp down everything. So basically these are the changes. This is the original render. This is the original render, and this is after. And I calmed down these guys as well, so you can see I balanced some of that back in. And then I created a fake depth using the P pass. Okay, so this is the P-pass. We can take a look at the red, green, and blue. So the green channel is what we're interested in, and it goes between minus 0.3, minus 3 to 7. So we could remap this if we wanted to. And what I've done, I took used the bright node to gain everything down, another bright to increase it a bit, and then a gamma node, and then another bright, and I just kept the blue channels, which is the Z. Sorry, the Y is the green is the Y axis, the blue is the Z axis. So that's the information. And let's go back. So this is the original render. Okay, if we take a look at the blue channels, it's white. It goes from 33 to 16. So let's gain it down, and then with a little bit of gamma we can get the interesting details. And basically I was trying to isolate these areas and give them some kind of haze, which after a little bit of color correction, that's what I have here. So that's the mask from the Z depth or the P position, and then I added color correction to that and overlaid it on top. So before, after. I also added another haze using, I believe, the height. Check. So using the green, using the Y position, and this is to add some kind of orange haze on top. So this is before the haze, this is after the haze. And then this delete node, if we middle click, you see we have a lot of AUVs that can slow down the comp. Pardon me, that can slow down the comp. With the delete node, we're just left with the C alpha channel. Then we have the foam, which is this. Let's go back to frame 102, which is what we've rendered previously. Okay, see, I think I went more aggressive here, and probably the point size is a bit different. And I added the limit to clamp some of the points. Color correct, I don't think it's doing anything. Yeah, it's just multiplying the highlights down a bit here. And then this time filter is actually a very, very cool node. So what it does is it takes in 4 frames and blurs them by 25%. Basically, it interpolates between 4 frames. Other compositing packages have much better time interpolation feature, but with this it helps with the foam. So if you have access to any other package that can do time interpolation between various frames, definitely use that with the foam to help smooth in and blur the result. Okay, and then this added on top. Okay, so without the foam, with the foam. And then some more color correction. This is a curve node. It's a very simple curve editor that we can use to tweak the colors. And it takes a little bit of time for the UI to come up. I think I messed up. Yeah, I changed some values here, but basically it's a ramp that we can use to edit the colors. It's not doing much for now. Let's turn this off. It's just a tiny bit of color correction, not much. And then HSV node, not doing anything. Yep, another HSV node. Let's make sure that I'm looking at the right graph. Yeah, it's working. I think, yeah, just a little bit of a desaturation here. And then a bright node to increase the brightness of the overall scene. And another color curve to basically smooth out the highlights. Let's take a look at this and just I'm lowering the amount of bright values, the highlights, and adding a little bit of lift in the mid-range of the image. So before, after, it just helps with the balance of the highlights. Color correct, bring in more saturation. So I'm multiplying the shadow colors and I'm multiplying the midtones to add more contrast. And then this is a ramp to create some vignette, fake vignette, to darken the corners. And this is to create a chroma aberration. It looks like I've done something else as well. Yeah, I'm adding a little bit of color correction per channel as well. Oh, sorry, not yeah, this is not a chroma aberration. This is a color correction per channel. So I'm doing tweaks for the red, green, and blue before and after. And this is more precise this way. So I separate the red, green, and blue. Actually, let me do this. So I'm going to do a channel copy. And I'm going to copy the target is C and the original, the origin is red, blue, green, sorry, and blue. And then we can add a color correct for each of these channels. In other packages you could also affect them here using this scope by setting it the red, green, and blue, but I prefer this way because I can see them individually. So now we can tweak the red separate from the green and blue, and then to merge them back, I'm going to use a channel copy. I'm going to plug in each of these guys, and then here I'm going to the target is C.R, the source is the first input C.R. The second one is C.green, it's the second input green, and then the third is the blue, and it's going to be C.3. And so basically this is the same, but now we have access to tweak in these guys individually, which gives us more control over the shadows and colors. So that's what I've done here, just a little bit of tweaking. And then more HSV, more gamma, bright, color correct. You see the difference between these guys is very narrow, but overall, if we start here and end up here, it adds up more. So this is a sharpen, to sharpen the image. Don't think it's doing anything. It does. Just a little bit of sharpen. And then this is the chroma aberration, which is similar. So I separate the red, green, and blue and scale them individually, scale them separately. So this is a transform, and I'm simply scaling the red separate from the green, and you can see now getting more chroma aberration effect. So that's how you do it manually. And this is the final render. I'll probably add in a grain as well. I know we try to fight the noise, but then we add a grain. So a grain node would help with the realism of this as well. And I think that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.